Hello! Welcome to Levels Plus Weekly. We've got a Direct, a Nintendo Direct, a 51-minute Nintendo Direct that I want to go over for this week's episode. In case it hasn't been readily made apparent, I don't have a capture card. So we're going to use this delightful setup that I've tested using my own site before to watch parts of the Direct that I was particularly excited about, and I'm going to talk about what I felt when I watched it yesterday. So this is not a live reaction, and I'm going to be talking over the Direct and skipping over stuff that I don't care about or don't have any interest in whatsoever, or hate, in the case of Skyward Sword HD. I feel like I want to keep this a positive video. I also plan to talk about the Smash Brothers Ultimate stuff at the end in part 2, because I have a lot of thoughts on Pyra and Mythra joining the roster, because once again Sakurai has defied my expectations and went with a character set that I didn't expect. So I want to do that separately instead of having it at the beginning. That way we can have a little break too. So let's go ahead and get started with the first announcement that happened after the Smash reveal, which is Fall Guys finally coming to the Switch. There. Which is Fall Guys coming to the Switch, finally. I'm feeling that, honestly, Devolver jumped on getting it onto the Switch a little late, but I believe there was an exclusivity deal with Sony that prevented them from doing it earlier. I feel like a lot of the hype for Fall Guys quieted down over the summer into the fall with the somewhat lackluster Season 2. There's still quite an enthusiastic fan base for it.
Ultimate Knockout comes to the Nintendo Switch system summer 2021.
I just feel like this might have missed the boat. I feel like getting Among Us out in December was still riding that game's popularity, and that's not to say that there isn't a devoted fan base to Fall Guys and that the Switch isn't going to be a great platform for it. I just think that a lot of the excitement that might have come from Fall Guys landing on Switch would have been a lot higher if it was earlier. But with exclusivity deals and all that fun stuff, I'm sure that just cramped Mediatronic and Devolver's plans to get it on here earlier. I'm excited for people who love Fall Guys. I know that there are lots and lots of people that are still into this game. The biggest thing about Fall Guys coming to Switch is if it has crossplay. If it's its own isolated little island, I think that's going to hurt it. And I don't know if they've said anything about there being crossplay or not. So I guess we'll have to see what Devolver announces a little bit down the road. And I hope that it does well. I don't think I'm going to buy into it because what I've seen of the game just doesn't really appeal to me as a player. But I do enjoy watching other people play it that enjoy it. So at the very least, I think it's a good thing for the Switch to have it on here. I just think the timing might have been a little off.
22 minutes before the solar system is destroyed.
So the Outer Wilds is something I am particularly excited to see coming to Switch. I have heard so many great things about this game. The Direct does kind of get into some of the story bits a bit too heavily, perhaps. But this just sounds so cool. I've wanted to play it, so I am all in on Outer Wilds coming to Switch. Super excited. It looks fun, has a cool premise, kind of runs with the Majora's Mask style of gameplay, but in a different context. Very, very hyped for this one.
What messages will you discover? How can you prevent the sun from exploding? Why is the solar system trapped in an endless time loop? Find out when the critically acclaimed Outer Wilds launches on Nintendo Switch summer 2021.
Yeah, really excited for that.
Sleuthing skills to the test.
All right, so I'm actually gonna pause this for a second just to because Famicom Detective Club coming to North American Switches. Oh my God, did not see that coming. We'll go ahead and play it now. I am just shocked that this is happening, and I'm so excited. Both of these are $34.99 each, so it's a bit of a cost investment. But this is the type of thing I want Nintendo to do. They need to be localizing these games that we've never gotten overseas before, and this following Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light is awesome. It's incredible. So I'm very excited that these are coming, and I'll be getting both of them when they launch. Who even knows what this could turn around and lead to? I mean, if we're starting to get localizations like this, who knows what else is on the table? My wildest dreams would be Hotel Dusk and Last Window coming to Switch. I don't really know how they would do that, given the touchscreen and utilization of the DS features for both of those games. But that would be amazing if that actually happened. Because Last Window never came out here, and that was such a disappointment. So yeah, this is amazing. I am all for this announcement.
Today on Nintendo eShop. The new age of battles begins.
Alright, I don't care about Samurai Warriors 5. Yay for people that are into that element, but it is not me. This, however, yes, Legend of Mana, with HD graphics and a rearranged soundtrack. Oh my God. Square Enix has been doing amazing work with the Mana games and the Saga games, and we're going to talk about Saga Frontier when it happens later. But it's awesome that these B-level franchises for the company are being given such loving attention this generation. I think my topic for next week's Levels Plus Weekly is to talk about something I touched on last week, which is they need to start doing this with Enix's side of the company. But we'll talk about that next week. So I am excited for this game so much. I have it on my PS3 as a PS1 Classic, but I'm gonna just get this because it does so much new stuff, and I like the visual overhaul and the new soundtrack. I'm already in. I just am waiting for the pre-order to go up. Alright, so I'll briefly touch on Monster Hunter Rise. I actually canceled my pre-order for this because I played the demo and it didn't provide me the mobility that I really was hoping it would in terms of movement. It still feels like old Monster Hunter to me, and I don't like how mobility works in those games. So I'm excited for people that are excited about this game because the new monsters in the Rampage system look awesome. It's just, I cannot care when the game is not something I'm interested in, unfortunately.
Against these ferocious monsters, stay tuned for the latest installment in the Monster Hunter series, launching March 26th.
Hopefully whoever got my pre-order is really happy with it.
Please take a look at this.
Alright, so Mario Golf is back, and this is the first console Mario Golf since the GameCube, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe one came out on the Wii or the Wii U because of Wii Sports. And I have been wanting to get Toadstool Tour for the GameCube for a long time now, but I don't need to now. I've got this, and I am very, very excited about the new features that they're adding into this game. Like speed golf looks bananas. The new features on controlling the swing, being able to play with motion controls, which Wii Sports is one of the few Wii games that I actually like the motion controls in.
In addition to button controls,
so I'm all over this. I've already pre-ordered it, to be honest with you. So Mario Golf Toadstool Tour is one of my favorite sports games of all time. It's probably number 5 on my very, very short list because I don't like most sports games. And this one just looks like the progression that I've always wanted. There's also a story mode, which brings Mii's back in, which is wild. With this in Miitopia, which I'm not going to really touch on too much here, Nintendo seems to be trying to get those going again, and hopefully there's a lot of customization that you can do with Mii's in this game that I didn't really get to see too much of. There's a little bit, but not a ton, because I'm going to have to create a new Mii to do this. Because I don't want to play it as myself. I never like to play games as myself. I like to play as my comic characters. So this is exciting. I'm very, very, very stoked about a new Mario Golf game, and one with RPG-esque elements and bananas multiplayer. I'm excited to learn what else is happening in this game, because I'm sure there's a bit more. So yeah, I'm already in. Already in on that. So let's scoot ahead. I don't care about Tales from the Borderlands. We'll briefly touch on Capcom Arcade Stadium whenever it loads. I already bought it. I already have it. I've tinkered with it slightly, but not a lot yet. I'm thinking about maybe doing a retro roundup on this, but doing it live, trying that out. Again, I don't have a capture card, so it wouldn't be the world's greatest thing to watch in terms of like high def recordings, but you'll get my live impressions as I play through a lot of these games that I've never played before, and I'll tell you if I think it's worth the $40 that it's asking. I'm just going to say that Stubbs the Zombie and Rebel Without a Pulse coming back from the dead, literally, figuratively, is probably the most bonkers thing that was announced at this Direct. It's unfortunate that Asper was bought up by Embracer Group, which is basically THQ Nordic, which is basically 8chan supporting folks. And if you know anything about 8chan, they're not great. So I am not here for this, unfortunately.
It's Travis touchdown.
So No More Heroes 3. So I've played the original No More Heroes. I didn't really get into it. And I'm not really sure what to think about 3, other than it looks like a No More Heroes game in the best way. And I can only hope that Travis Touchdown is not as much of a perv if I want to try it out, because that was one of the reasons I stopped playing it. And this is the most we've actually seen of how the game works, which looks like No More Heroes. So I like the fact that it's out there and doing a lot of wild stuff, like with these different game modes. And new mechanics and all that. It looks like it's fun, and I'm not immediately on board. I'll be paying attention to what people think, but it's good to see that it's going back to the original well of how this series was.
It all makes sense when No More Heroes 3 lands on Earth. Or, you know.
Alright, so Neon White
Exterminate demons in hell.
Is really interesting. This was a game that threw me by surprise. We've got Steve Bloom. Lovely voice of Steve Bloom. And we've got this first-person card-building action game that reminds me of Mirror's Edge. Ben Esposito, who did Donut County, is co-developing the game with Machine Girls, which is a team I don't know anything about. But I like the art design a lot. It reminds me a bit of Shin Megami Tensei. But it looks like there might be more to it than just the jumping around and the combat. So I'm into this. I'm really excited to see what this game actually is in more detail. So yeah, my fingers are crossed that this is anywhere near as good as Donut County was.
Uncover Heaven's mysteries.
It's going to be a while until we find out, though, because it's not coming out until much later. I'm going to just briefly comment here, because this game doesn't really catch my interest, but I am shocked that Nintendo is publishing this. 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? Yeah. In 2019, we got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 from Nintendo, working with Marvel, and now we have DC Superhero Girls coming from Nintendo. So Nintendo is one of the only publishers that I can immediately think of in recent years that has successfully managed to publish a Marvel game and a DC game. Okay, I really don't care about Plants vs. Zombies coming back at all, so we're going to skip that. And I don't know where I'm at. We're still there. So this is Miitopia.
Anyone can.
I'm not going to watch this whole thing. I'm going to briefly touch on the fact that Miitopia coming to Switch is a really encouraging sign that Nintendo's looking into porting 3DS games to the Switch. Capcom ported DS games with the Mega Man 0 and ZX collection. But we haven't had a lot of 3DS ports. We had the Alliance Alive, which is a lovely game, but I actually don't like the way it looks in HD as much as I did on the 3DS. I think that the Super Deformed style worked better with less HD graphics. But Miitopia is a great choice because I'm sure that it wasn't that hard to upscale in contrast to some other games. And now my hope is we'll start seeing things like Metroid Samus Returns, or Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds, or the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D upgrades, or Super Mario 3D Land. There's a lot of potential, and oh yeah, and of course, I almost forgot, bad me, all the Fire Emblem games on the 3DS. This is super promising for more stuff coming from the 3DS being ported and looking nice. I'm going to skip the Animal Crossing thing. I think the Super Mario items are neat, and the Warp Pipe is actually, like, revolutionary. But I feel like there needs to be a bit more going on for me to talk about it. Alright, let's talk about Triangle Strategy. So this is the next game from the Octopath Traveler team. In the, as they refer to it, the HD2D, I think? Yeah. Series. I am hype as hell for this, because it looks like Tactics Ogre in terms of how it flows. And if it's a Tactics Ogre without the name game, I am in. I am so in, because I love the Ogre games, and I'm glad that Square Enix is looking to an Enix series for some inspiration here. Now, most people are going to immediately think Final Fantasy Tactics. And that's fair. The thing that you have to know, though, is that Final Fantasy Tactics took the core team from Quest that made Tactics Ogre, and that's why Final Fantasy Tactics is a lot like Tactics Ogre, because they took a lot of the team. So, why I'm saying more Tactics Ogre than Final Fantasy Tactics is because of the morality system and the decisions that you make affecting the plot. Ogre Battle 64 is one of my favorite N64 games, and one of my favorite games of all time. And you can change the path of the story by the decisions you make, and this game is letting you do that. And I love the art, I love the way it looks, the music already sounds great, the voice acting isn't bad, The battle system looks awesome. It looks like it's got environmental stuff that you can do, which is hype as hell. I am all in for Tactics Ogre style gameplay with XCOM consideration of the environment, burning houses and burning land, and then using water to make electricity charge stuff. I love it. And then the follow-up attacks that we're seeing here, it reminds me of Vandal Hearts. So there's a lot of good inspiration that Square Enix is taking for this game. And then the fact that you can knock this guy into that guy, and then that guy attacks them, that's awesome. I love this so much. I'm not going to watch this whole thing because it's very long. But Triangle Strategy, I'm looking forward to trying the demo. I'm going to probably dig into that this weekend. Alright, what is next here? Okay, so this is a Star Wars game by Zynga, which that is probably enough right there. And then this EA Dodgeball game by the Mario Kart Live team. That just was probably the worst trailer, in my opinion, in the entire Direct, because it was trying too hard, which it's an EA license. It's an EA thing, so surprise. World Ends Club. I have been watching Game Grumps play Danganronpa, and this is the second time I've watched somebody play through Danganronpa, which the first time was a Let's Play group that's not doing Let's Plays at the moment, called Fresh Plays on YouTube and Twitch. And Danganronpa is problematic as hell. And this is by the same team, but it's trying to turn the conventions on its head. But I'm just, knowing what I know about Danganronpa and its creators, I am immediately suspicious. So I don't think I can care about this game. I'm sorry. Hades is getting a physical release, which is great. I might consider going for that because it comes with the soundtrack and a little art thing. And then it would free up gigs on my Switch. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection. So I'm not that hype about this, but I'll talk about it. It's good to see Koei Tecmo re-releasing these games, because people like them. I don't want to care because it's Team Ninja, and Team Ninja just has. The only game of Team Ninjas that I've actually had any enjoyment out of is Hyrule Warriors. And I don't think they had anything to do with Fire Emblem Warriors. Even with Itagaki gone, I still just don't care for their design ethos and how they treat women in their games. And we're about to see 3 of said women. Just, it's so problematic to me. So I'm happy for people that love these games and want to try them out, but it is not me. Let's briefly pause on Hyrule Warriors expansion pass for Age of Calamity. So my guess is that Robbie and Pura is going to be playable, but the expanded roster's on there twice. Newly added weapon types, new character vignettes, new challenges, more enemies, new battle skills, new stages. I mean, this sounds great. My problem is that I haven't got much into Age of Calamity yet because I don't have a Pro controller and I want to play this on my TV. And they mapped key buttons to things that the GameCube controller doesn't have. Unlike Fire Emblem Warriors, which I do believe I was able to play to some extent with the GameCube controller. So I'm a little annoyed. And I've noticed increasingly that there's games coming out that just don't let you use the GameCube controller. Capcom Arcade Stadium is another example where I can't insert coins because I don't have a stick to push in. And I can't start the game because I don't have a select button. And I can't use a feature because I don't have the shoulder bumper that it wants. So you can remap stuff, so I'm going to be remapping some controls on that, but it's like, I realize that by trying to save $60 to $70, I'm hurting myself in the long run, and trying to play with the Joy-Con is not what I want to do when I'm playing on my TV. So I will probably just have to bite the bullet and get a Pro controller at some point, but that has prevented me from getting more into Age of Calamity. I have it, but I don't even think I've really played it since I bought it. I just have my demo progress that copied over. But I'll get into it eventually. The expansion pass might help me get a little bit more excited.
There's even more coming to Nintendo Switch.
Yes, there is. Alright, so Bravely Default 2. This is coming out next week. I have it on pre-order. I played a bit of the final demo, and it seems solid, but I think I'm going to need to see some impressions before I go pick it up at Best Buy. Because I'm just not sure if I am that gung-ho about it, to be honest. And that's okay. I also did just spend money on a bunch of stuff yesterday. Capcom Arcade Stadium, SNK vs. Capcom, Match of the Millennium, and a Retreat. So I'm just kind of feeling like, do I really want to buy this? Or should I just wait? But I did get it on discount, so I'll probably just go ahead and bite the bullet and get it. But I'm just, it's not, like, compared to Triangle Strategy, which really, like, tickled my interest. Bravely Default 2, I'm not a huge fan of the art style in terms of how the characters look. Again, I feel like the Super Deformed works better on a handheld system where the high definition isn't so much a factor. And the gameplay, while interesting, just hasn't hooked me. But maybe starting it from the beginning and getting to know the characters better will help. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, I'm very excited about.
The latest installment in the legendary Ghosts and Goblins
Capcom
series
did
comes to
reveal
life
that the
as the
original
Brave Knight Arthur
creator,
will
whose
unleash
name I
weapons
don't
and
remember
spells
off the top of my
and skills to
head,
battle monsters
is
across
directing this
challenging
game.
stages within the
So
game
that's
realm.
really awesome.
Local
I'm sorry I
co-op
can't
play is
remember his
also
name right
available
now.
for the first time. Arthur and his quest with one of 3 supporting characters.
It's coming out next
Barry for
week,
defense,
but since, like I
Barry for
said, I just
transportation,
spent a
or
bunch of
Archie
money
for
this
bridges.
month, I'm
Ghosts
going to
and
hold
Goblins
off on getting it
Resurrection launches
a bit.
February 25th.
I'll probably
Pre-orders
consider
are
getting it
available
next month
now
because I
on
don't have
Nintendo
anything other
eShop.
than the Amiibos for Smash coming out next month. Currently planned. And possibly some stuff with limited run, but I'm still debating. But this looks great. I love how they're doing the art style to make it look like antiquated manuscripts. I just think it's really cool. Some people don't like it, but I do.
8 protagonists.
So Saga Frontier Remastered looks great, and again, it's lovely that Square Enix is giving Saga so much love. I still need to get Collection of Saga, so what I'll probably do is get Collection of Saga at the same time I buy this.
And a new scenario for the protagonist Acelus. Saga Frontier Remastered.
But it looks great. This is supposedly one of the best games in the series. Hopefully Saga Frontier 2 is next. Thank God Kawazu is still there, so these games are still happening. I don't care about Apex Legends, so I'm skipping it. And I don't remember if there was anything after Apex Legends or not in this little blip. No, there's not. So, next is Skyward Sword HD. I don't care. So we're going to go right to the end. We're going to go right to the end, to the hypest thing in this entire direct for Mr. Wildcat JF.
Last announcement for today. Please take a look at this.
Splatoon 3 is a thing that exists, and I am elated that we're getting a new Splatoon game. I love Splatoon 2, but I just haven't felt like playing it lately. Even the Mario Splatfest, like, just, it didn't happen. I'm just feeling like I feel like I've done what I can do in that world, but now that this is happening, I'm going to probably get back into it to get hyped. But what I'm seeing in this is amazing. I love that you have a salmonid buddy. I love all the new hair. I love that they made it gender neutral. I love this wasteland idea, the Splatlands as they're calling it. I love that they're continuing the tradition of using the final Splatfest in the previous game to influence the direction of the sequel. In case you weren't aware, Pearl won the final Splatfest and she was Chaos. So now we're going to go to a city of Chaos. Which I forget the name of it. They did announce the name. It's like Splatopolis or something like that. Splatterville. I don't remember. I love this trailer. I love that this is all about lore and just setting the mood for what this game is. Like this incredibly long scene of them being on the train is so Splatoon to me. And then this version of Splatak is amazing. I'm actually going to turn it up because it's so good. And then we're going to talk about stuff in more detail. Oh, that's so good. So, I want to actually go back and watch this in slow motion. Just the gameplay portion, not the whole thing. Because there's some interesting stuff happening that, oops, I actually do not want closed captions. I want this. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it is up. And we're going to slow the playback speed down, and I've muted it so we don't have to listen to Splatak very, very slowly. The gameplay is so brief, but so right off the bat, we're seeing an entirely new system of getting into a match. So Inklings and Octolings will launch in from these delightful, I forget, they almost look like coffee makers, but I know that there's an actual thing. What's interesting is that I forget what the sniper rifles are called in Splatoon, because I don't use them, is hanging from theirs. They're the only one that is. We do get another shot of the bow, which I'm very excited about. I think the bow looks fun. We've got this blaster deluxe thing back over here, where my mouse is. That has this big tank in the back. The ink effects look amazing too. Just incredible stuff. So here's the rival team coming in, and as I said, they all come out of their machines, their little spawns. I don't think there's any new weapons here, at least in terms of concept. Sloshers are back. The Tired and True, Super Soaker modeled one. I can't remember all the names right now. I'm sorry. The Splatling is here, and then it looks like the big gun that is a, I forget what it's called. I'm sorry, but we get to see some new clothes and some of the new hair in action. But yes, you get to choose where you launch in from, which is pretty hype. They're running with this Splatlands thing here too. Again, the game looks amazing. It looks so much better in Splatoon 2 already. And it's still got another year in development plus. So you fly into where you're going, and we get to see the bow in action. It shoots 3 blasts. So there's this new feature that the Nintendo's Twitter's talking about, which is a splat roll. which is a dodge mechanic. So it makes me wonder if dualies are here, because we don't see them. Because that was their big thing, was doing a dodge roll, but now you can do a roll as a squid or an octo and dodge stuff. And then it's also, you can use this roll to cover a wall as you're going up, which I think is a great mechanic. And you kind of see this Inkling here do that to defeat that other one. And then there's just interesting shots coming out. So we see this big thing, which I guess could be an Inkzuka, but yeah, this person's actually charged up. I initially thought there was a potential that you could swap weapons mid-match from that footage, but now I see that that is a special that just ended. So I'm wondering if the snipers can hang from things, because that's twice they've shown that. And I wonder if the Inklings are going to have a little bit more personality, perhaps, in match. I wonder if taunts might be something. We do see this new, what looks like a crab bomb, which could be a special or a bomb. And then more on the Inkzuka. That effect definitely doesn't look as good as some of the other ink effects. I forgot that I had predictions. I had speculation on this direct. So before jumping into cat transition into Smash Talk, let's talk about how right I was. So I don't have a mouse because I'm on a break from work, so I have to keep that in my in my work system. So as I say here, Nintendo confirmed Smash, so it's incredibly likely DLC character reveals in the cards, of course. I still thought I was going to be Monster Hunter, but once again, because Sakurai has figured out how to not be predictable, we got Pyra and Mythra from Xenoblade instead. So I felt that Nintendo would probably have 2 to 4 titles of their own to announce. I got one of these right, sort of. I originally guessed that Xenoblade Chronicles X would be ported. I thought that a new Kirby game of some sort would be revealed. A retro franchise we haven't seen in some time would get a revival. And a possible tease for one of the big 3, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, or Bayonetta 3. None of those happened entirely, and the only one that I could argue I got kind of right is the retro franchise we haven't seen in some time, which is Famicom Detective Club, which had been announced in Japan, but the localization announcement makes me feel strongly enough to throw it in here because those games haven't been touched since the Game Boy Advance, when I believe the first one got ported in Japan, and then they were remade on the Super Nintendo, and then of course the Famicom Disk System originals. But we did get 2 to 4 Nintendo games. I wasn't wrong there. So we got Splatoon 3, of course. We got Mario Golf Super Rush. Got Miitopia, so that's my port. Not the port I expected. We got Zelda Skyward Sword HD, which is another game I didn't expect. And I've watched this direct enough times. We got the DC Superhero Girls game, which Nintendo is publishing, so that counts. So that's 5. I want to say there was one other thing that I'm just not thinking of immediately. That was a brand new game announcement. I felt that any other Zelda news would be held for a 35th anniversary direct, which I still feel they're going to do. I still feel that between Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD and Miitopia potentially opening the door for more 3DS ports, that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D will be ported up to the Switch. I think that both of those are still very likely, and plus we also have Zelda Link Between Worlds as well. I don't think Zelda Triforce Heroes will see a port. But we saw a Wii port and a 3DS port, so I don't think Link's crossbow training's on the docket. What would be really wild is if they brought Four Swords Adventures back, but that's getting into way too wild speculation town. So I think that there will be a 35th anniversary direct. I think that there will probably be 2 separate compilations with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess in one, and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask in one. I think Link Between Worlds is probably not an immediate thing, unfortunately. I feel that they'll push Ocarina and Majora first. And there'll probably be some other stuff. And there wasn't anything about Pokemon at all, so I was right there. Capcom will share some new projects. They did not share anything new, but they shared things on everything we did know about. So Arcade Stadium did get a final date. It did not get more content, but it was released yesterday. And I have it already, as I think I said earlier. Atlus will finally announce Persona games for Switch. Nope. SNK will confirm King of Fighters stuff. Nope. Konami will announce a new Bomberman project. That's a no. They did have a new baseball game on the Japanese Direct, though. A couple more cloud-based games will be announced. I'm actually surprised that this didn't happen. The last mini partner Direct, however they call them, had Hitman 3 and Control, but nothing new, and that is a bit of a shock. Some other company will announce a big retro compilation. Well, technically, Square Enix announced Legend of Mana was getting a remaster, and talked about Saga Frontier and its remaster, but there wasn't a compilation outside of Arcade Stadium. And then my last one was just goofiness. Majesco confirming a Boy and His Blob HD for Switch, along with Monster Tale being its ultimate version. Would have been nice, but I think Majesco's at this point nowhere near the tier that they need to be in a Direct, unfortunately. And I also thought a new console for the Switch Online app will be announced. I thought that the timing was good because they actually did release the an update for the NES and Super NES apps on the day of the Direct. So I thought there was a possibility, but there was not. So I got a couple things. I got that Nintendo had quite a few games. I got sort of that they had a retro franchise on tap. And Arcade Stadium getting a final date. Not too bad. That's the fun thing about speculation, is you just never know. Alright. Now we will go into a kitty break and come back with all that Smash stuff. Welcome back. Let's I'm gonna just loop this for a bit and then talk about the trailer itself, and then I think I have to start work. So once tonight rolls around and I get the cats fed and all that fun stuff, I think I'll record a bit more on Smash in general. So let's just talk about Smash Ultimate's trailer and their new characters, Pyra and Mythra. And I'll have the sound down a bit so I can talk over it and not be too blown out. So, I feel that this was a very good Smash reveal because it initially made me think, in the streamer and their community that I was participating in, think that this was a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC package.
One day, Pyra just disappeared.
So a lot of people felt that Xenoblade 2 got robbed when Smash Ultimate came out because only 2 tracks made it in and Rex became a Mii costume for the first Fighter's Pass. Xenoblade has become one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, especially on the RPG front. Combined with Fire Emblem, it overshadows everything else that Nintendo has done on the RPG front, I would say. Golden Sun does not have the appeal that Xenoblade has. Trying to think of like other, like Glory of Hercules that they did on the DS doesn't. Summerbringer doesn't. The Earthbound series, it hasn't seen a new entry since the Game Boy Advance. So Xenoblade getting a second rep, technically a second and a third rep, is unsurprising. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is the new one. So it's not a surprise to see them here, and honestly, I'm cool with Pyra and Mythra being here, even though I abhor the character designs in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Pyra has had some slight modifications to her costume, not as much as Mythra. She's wearing pantyhose, and her navel is not as prominent. So it's slightly better, but she still has a sexist costume. She looks like she's super fun to play as, though, especially because they brought back the Zelda Chic transformation mechanic from Melee for Pyra and Mythra to do. And it makes sense because technically, Spoiler Town, I guess they're the same character, but Mythra is a different personality or something. I don't know how it all works. I haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because I think it looks ugly. Mythra looks a lot better. I like the black tights and material that they put on her costume. It's a lot better. And she also looks more fun, although both of them have really cool special moves. But they have a lot. Like, Mythra seems to have like 6 special moves, so I'm really curious how all of her moves work. Especially since they transform. So that's got to be a special. So I'm really curious how these two are going to work. We'll find out more in March. But Smash needed more women on the roster. And the DLC has been getting better, but the first Fighter's Pass was problematic because it had 2, and one of them was partnered with Banjo, and Banjo's the headliner. So, and Kazooie's a bird, so not a human. And then Byleth, her female counterpart, isn't getting an amiibo. The male one, even though the male one is the less popular from my understanding of Fire Emblem Three Houses fandom, the male version's the one that's getting the amiibo and got the front dibs. So First Pass did not do great on a gender front. And I think that Nintendo might have realized that because they've been doing much better with Pass 2. Min Min, right off the bat, Steve has a female alt in Alex, and now we have Pyra and Mythra, which add 2 more women to the roster. So from that standpoint, I'm happy. We've got 2 characters that look like they're fun to play, that can change between each other. adds more women to the roster, and the costumes were considered and toned down a little bit from their original game. And thank God, because Pyra's outfit was one of the primary reasons why I never decided to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There's no remixes, apparently, from what people have commented, although I don't know, because I haven't listened to the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 soundtrack. I know that the team that did the original Xenoblade Chronicles is on it, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is one of the best soundtracks in any game, and what I'm hearing in the trailer is great, so more Xenoblade Chronicles 2 music is good. The stage looks interesting. It's a traveling stage, but it makes me wonder what might happen. If it's just going to be pretty static with just the background characters and the dragon head on the front of the boat moving around, or if there will be like weather stuff happening. We'll find out in March. I'm just glad that Rex is not involved more than he is. I think him being a part of the final Smash and as a taunt is perfect, because Pyra and Mythra deserve to have their own space. The other big issue I have with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is this slave-master dynamic that they created with the blade system, that a blade becomes assigned to its owner. So seeing Pyra and Mythra here without Rex doing their own stuff for the most part is great, because it liberates them from that mechanic, from that conceit. And that's one thing I do like about Smash, is that it does sometimes remove problematic elements from the characters that I might have issues with their core game. But yeah, I am on board with this. We needed more women on the roster. Xenoblade deserved another rep. I would have been happier, I think, if it was Elma from X, but X is... Until X gets a remaster, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it makes sense from a marketing standpoint to focus on 2. Because 2's got a full price game and a DLC pack that it can sell. We can't do much with X at this point. So I'm feeling that if with the other 2 characters that are left, if there's any more Nintendo ones, it's going to be related to the Switch for marketing. But we shall see, and that's going to be the second half of the second half. Will be my face talking about this stuff. But I'm here for this. I'm glad to see more Xenoblade. I'm glad to get more music. I'm glad to see Pyra and Mythra get better costumes and some liberation from Rex. Honestly, the Gower Plains stage in Smash is really big and kind of obnoxious. So I think I'm going to probably break my own music rules and have the Xenoblade Chronicles music on this stage too. Because this looks like a stage I'll actually play on more often. The fact that they got Shulk's voice actor back for this as well makes me wonder if there's going to be something special between the 2 of them. Like a little nod or something. It'd be cute if they did that. But yeah, we've done 2 loops. I don't really have too much more to say about the trailer itself. Sakurai will present Pyra and Mythra in March. I imagine they will be close to when the Amiibo come out, which is the 23rd. I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't remember. It's late March. So I imagine that will be when they come out, is probably the presents will be a week before the Amiibo. And then they'll announce the first line of the Fighters Pass 2 Amiibo, more than likely. Which will probably just be Min Min and Steve. Because if they're not going to do female Byleth, they're not going to do Alex. But yeah, I want to transition. So we'll do another little cat transition. And then it'll be me talking to you face to face about what Pyra and Mythra have done to the Smash speculation. Because once again, I was wrong. So, we'll be right back.
You having fun there, Destroyer of Worlds?
Hello and welcome to Levels Plus Weekly Spooky House. It's times like these when I really start to realize the limits of my current filming environment. Apparently that is the theme of episode 12. Wildcat JF needs better recording equipment if I'm going to do this more seriously. But thankfully, I'm not doing this seriously at all. I'm doing it for fun. I have no monetary expectations for Levels Plus Weekly or anything that I do on this channel. Except for book promotion. That's about it. But, you know, who knows? Someday when I'm a YouTube partner, I might come back to this video and laugh at my ignorance. Anyway, welcome to the last section of Levels Plus Weekly this week, where I want to talk about Pyra and Mythra and how the speculative element of Smash Ultimate has once again been completely thrown out the window. So, not that long ago, I recorded a video when Sephiroth was announced about how I felt that it was going to be huge ads for Smash Ultimate following Sephiroth, because Sephiroth is a huge character. It's difficult to ignore the significance of Sephiroth on the Japanese role-playing front. And as a villain, one of the most iconic, certainly, of all time. When I think of Final Fantasy villains, Sephiroth is really high up there. And when I think of villains in general, Sephiroth is pretty high up there. So, my initial thought was like, okay, well, we're going to have to go big or go home. But Pyra and Mythra have basically rewrote that script, and now I have a different opinion on what exactly is going to happen next. So, just for transparency's sake, although I usually edit this out, but I think this one time I'm not going to edit it out. I did record a segment after I recorded everything else that day, talking about this particular topic, but I've had a little bit more time to think, and I also realized that I wanted to have music playing, and since I was watching direct footage, I'm not doing the usual background music option. So I put on some Xenoblade music, but I realized that that's going to make editing this segment, see, editing this segment a nightmare. Because if I cut something, then all of a sudden the song is going to skip, and it's going to be weird. So I just took that out, and I might play around with my video options. So if there's music playing now, it's because I did it in post. Welcome to the background of how Levels Plus Weekly operates. It's always an adventure on this show. I half expect Finn to start meowing for food here any minute now. So we'll just see how this goes. Anyway, to get to the topic at hand, I think that Fighters Pass 2 has become a checklist of a pass. And what do I mean by a checklist? So this is what I think happened with the Fighters Passes, is that Fighters Pass 1 was a lot of dream material. There was Banjo, who I think was probably the biggest dream. But I think for Sakurai, getting Dragon Quest in was also a huge deal, and I think it was also a huge deal for a lot of Japanese fans and role-playing game fans and Dragon Quest fans. I was pretty happy about it, not necessarily in the execution, but at the very least at the notion of having Dragon Quest in Smash. SNK getting Terry was definitely a Sakurai wish list item. You could tell by how he reacted in the Direct. Joker, I think, was also another big Sakurai wishlist item. But I think a lot of fans of Persona were really excited about Joker. Unfortunately, Atlus has continued to not put Persona on Switch beyond Strikers. So I think that the hype behind that is not as good as it could have been in hindsight. And then we have Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I was hyped for because I love Three Houses, and Byleth is a fun character, and I don't care if you think there's too many Fire Emblem characters. Byleth was a good addition. I personally feel that one of those 5 characters didn't quite fit the way that the other 4 did, and that's Byleth. I truly believe that Byleth was a tag-in. And I believe, now that we've seen some of what this pass has to offer, I think that Byleth was a tag-in for Steve and Alex from Minecraft. And I believe this because of what I have read and heard about Nintendo has been working with Microsoft for a long time to make this happen. And I think that Steve and Alex were supposed to be the 5th character. And then I also believe that Byleth was intended to be in this pass, perhaps where Steve and Alex were. Probably because Byleth was not as complicated of a character to do. Steve and Alex have so much going on mechanic-wise, and having to do all of the mineral stuff for the stages. All 100 plus, I think we're at 110 stages now. Is mind-boggling. I could see why there was a delay. If what I'm saying has any merit. So if we pretend that Steve and Alex weren't actually meant for this pass, and they were meant for the first pass, and if we think about Byleth and being a part of this one, then I get to my checklist hypothesis. I feel that we are getting some characters that Sakurai wanted to add but couldn't. And Nintendo wanted to add, but Sakurai just couldn't do it. And when we look at the actual roster, so we have Min from ARMS. ARMS was too late in development to join in. And when I say too late development, I mean in terms of Smash Ultimate's development. To join in. So Springman was added as an assist, and there were spirits added of a lot of the major characters, but that was kind of it. And there was some Mii costume parts. That was the best Sakurai could do. So Min was added as a means of getting a major new Nintendo franchise that appeared on the Switch onto Smash. Ignoring Steve and Alex and pretending that Byleth is supposed to be number 2 on this pass, Byleth would represent Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is one of the most successful entries in the Fire Emblem series. A huge success for Nintendo on that front, on the Switch, in all regions. And given the history of Fire Emblem DLC with Corrin and Fates, it was destined to happen. So that's not a surprise. Then we get Sephiroth. And Sephiroth is kind of an interesting one because Sephiroth corrects the biggest problem in terms of a character representative in Cloud that the game had. Because Cloud may have had a stage, but he only had 2 songs and he had no spirits, no assist trophy, felt like an island. I talked about this with the Sephiroth trailer, so I'm not going to get into it any more than that. Sephiroth corrected that by adding more music, giving another character, adding another stage, making Final Fantasy feel like it's a part of the entire enterprise of Smash. Pyra and Mythra fall into the Min Byleth camp, in that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was not far enough along in development for Sakurai to do more than what was done in the base game, which was a couple songs, a few spirits, some Mii costume parts, and then a Rex costume was added as a Fighters Pass 1 incentive. And at this point, Pyra and Mythra have been pretty clamored for. I think more with Rex than just the 2 of them together. But again, as I said earlier in the video, I feel that removing Rex from the equation, for the most part, was the right call to get rid of that really, really toxic male character domineering a female character master-slave dynamic that the original game had. I think that was very good on Sakurai's part to drop that, and also to incorporate the tag mechanic that Zelda and Sheik used to have as their gimmick. It was a gimmick that worked. Bring it back. It's a gimmick that works really well for those 2. So, and it also brings in the potential for more Xenoblade music, including from Definitive Edition, which just came out. I mean, that is an absolute possibility, and what I really hope. I hope it's not all just Xenoblade Chronicles 2 music. So where do we go from here? So if we're looking at Fighters Pass 2 as a means of fulfilling a checklist of things that didn't happen for the base game, where do we go next? What would be the next option? I am thinking at this point, because we did get Minecraft Steve and Alex in this pass, that we're going to have an even split of 3 and 3. 3 first party and 3 third party. So we've got 2 of each. So there's 1 more left. And I think that it could go one of 2 ways for both first and third. It's either going to be a Switch specific character that just wasn't ready for Ultimate at the base, or it's going to be something that is like a wild fan dream situation. That's like basically referring to things didn't happen with Smash Ultimate on time. Maybe there's a character that was being considered in the past that couldn't make it that could now. That's going to be a lot less for third parties. I think that's more of a first party option. But that's what I'm feeling. That's my personal belief in where these 2 characters are going. So let's talk about third parties real quick. We'll just knock them out of the way. Because I feel like there's a very specific thing that's going to happen. And so what I want to address is that I think that there's a few obvious options. There's not, to my knowledge, there's not a third-party character that was considered for Smash that didn't make it prior to Ultimate. There's probably been some different things going on behind the scenes that didn't work out. I feel like Ubisoft was on that plate and something happened and it didn't work out for them to get a character, for example. Because we got Altair and we got Rabbids costumes, but no character, and that just seems really weird. So Ubisoft is possible because of the close relationship they have with Nintendo. They worked on Mario and Rabbids together. Starlink had a bunch of Star Fox cameos. They've done other collaborative stuff, and Rayman has been in Smash since Wii U and 3DS as a trophy, and he's also in there as a spirit right now. And we've already got a Rabbid costume and Rabbids in the game, so Rayman is, if Ubisoft was to get a character, it's Rayman. That's what I'm going to try to conclude this section with. Other indies that are possible, Shovel Knight's not, unless they go really off the wall and pick like Plague Knight or Spectre Knight or King Knight. I don't think they're going to do that. Shantae is also possible because she's been in Wii U and 3DS and in Ultimate. Ultimate even upped the spirit count, so she has a little bit more representation. Shantae is probably one of the more likely indie characters to get in because of that. There's always been a close association with WayForward and Nintendo in terms of Shantae. The other indie character that I think is likely would be Hollow Knight, because that game has done really well on Switch, and Silksong's coming to Switch exclusively as a console right now. And I think it would make sense because the character has moves. Because then when I start thinking about other indie characters that have been prominent on Switch, I get to like Celeste. Madeline doesn't have many attacks, and the only time she does attack is she attacks herself. And by herself, I mean Madeline. And then we have Untitled Goose Game, which, yes, the goose certainly antagonizes everyone, but I can't think of a Smash-wide moveset for Goose, as much as I really would love for him to be in this game. Oh, that would just make me so happy. And then it's like, there's a couple other indies that are very prominent that are not leaping to mind right this second. But those like, I think Shantae, Hollow Knight, Untitled Goose Game, Celeste, Among Us maybe, because Among Us was a pretty big deal last year, and it's on Switch, and but I don't foresee any indie character potentially getting in other than Hollow Knight or Shantae. And I am more prone to think that they would be Mii costumes if they got in at all. So I talked about Ubisoft, so let's actually talk about other third parties and not just indies. I don't think SNK is going to get any more characters because when Terry came in, it really felt like he's the SNK character because he has music and spirits that are not tied to King of Fighters. So I think that he's off the table. And considering how much music he brought with him, that's fine. There's plenty of other SNK characters that are great, but I think that that's all right. I'm also leaning towards Capcom, Konami, and Sega not getting any more reps. And I say that with a bit of hesitation, because I still have in my heart a really strong feeling of Monster Hunter coming in, but those three companies already have 3 characters each in the game. And at this point, I don't think Square Enix is getting a 4th character either. So I'm going to say Capcom, Square Enix, Konami, and Sega are done. So that doesn't leave too many other companies left. I don't imagine Microsoft getting 2 characters in one pass, although if my hypothesis has any merit, it would have happened in Fighters Pass 1 with Banjo and Steve. But I don't know if they would go that far to do a 3rd character for Microsoft on a pass. So that basically leaves Bandai Namco as the last third party that's in Smash already to get another rep. And honestly, I'm surprised they haven't. I really am surprised they haven't. From my understanding, the team at Bandai Namco has been hesitant to do too much of their own stuff because they feel so honored to be working on Smash anyway. And they threw a bunch of stuff in with Pac-Man in terms of the taunts and music and stuff. So I'm feeling like if anything for Bandai Namco were to happen, it would probably be like Dark Souls or a Tales character, because those are probably, although Tales is not as big as it used to be, but I think that those are very big properties for them that would make the most sense. Tales would be, they both be more sword characters, which I don't care as long as they do interesting things. I don't have this swords are evil thing that's going on. I don't care. But outside of that, I'm not really sure. And then we get into companies that do have Mii costumes. So we've got Marvelous, who brought Travis into the game. So who knows what they could do. Story of Seasons. Sukuna would be kind of neat. That was a big success for Marvelous. And it did pretty well on the Switch. And it's recent. But I think that Sukuna is way too niche to happen. And at this point, I don't think niche is on the table in terms of third parties. We went over Ubisoft already. We have Bethesda, who has Fallout guy hanging out there. I don't foresee Bethesda getting anyone other than an Elder Scrolls character, and at this point, I do not want an Elder Scrolls character because I don't want to have to mute all of the music because of Jeremy Soule being a sex pest. So my hope is that that doesn't happen. And I don't foresee Doomslayer making it in because I think his whole MO is about being violent. And while Smash has violence in it, Doom is a whole nother degree of violence. So I think it would be weird. I think it would be very strange. I don't foresee it happening. And that's basically where we're at with Bethesda. Those are the franchises on Switch. Unless they've got something else cooking that I'm not aware of. And then we have Toby Fox. We do have a Sans costume. We could do something else from Undertale. I mean, we did it with Xenoblade just now. And we already have an Undertale remix in the game. So the precedent's there. And honestly, Undertale is huge worldwide. And Toby Fox is already on board. So that actually is not a bad guess if we were to go off of Mii costumes and stuff. I don't know much about Undertale, so I'm not going to say any names of characters that I think are likely. I need to play it this year. It's on my list. Deltarune's also a possibility. Could get someone from there as well. Outside of that, who you say? And I don't really know. Koei Tecmo, I think, is the most likely third party that's not currently in Smash at all. And like Ryu is like who you would think of. Ninja Gaiden's Ryu, because of the long history of that character. A Dead or Alive fighter like Kasumi or Ayane might be possible. I kind of would prefer not, because again, I said something like I don't want sexist characters in the game. And it's really hard for me to look at the women of Dead or Alive with a lens that doesn't go, oh, this male gaze fan service crap. So I don't want that to happen. It's possible though. I mean, we have a Metroid stage in the 3DS Dead or Alive game, so. And Koei Tecmo and Nintendo are like really tight right now, and that's why it's kind of weird they're not in the game already. So if I were to pick a third party that's not in Smash at all, it's Koei Tecmo. What that would be, I don't know. I think it would be Ryu. I mean, they could go really out there and like do a Rygar remake and put Rygar in the game. I don't foresee that happening, though. So that's the third-party component. So that's what I think there. But when it comes to Nintendo, what else has come out on the Switch that has been enormous? That hasn't been ruined by spirit events? That's when, like, if I add that spirit event caveat, that's when it gets a little bit trickier, because Nintendo has done spirit events for Animal Crossing New Horizons, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Mario Party 9, Labo, Astral Chain, Link's Awakening, I'm sure there's one or two other things that are not immediately jumping into my head, because there's been a lot of spirit events. There was a third party I forgot before I get too much deeper in this. Arc System Works, because they do have spirits from the River City series in the game. But they could go Guilty Gear, Double Dragon, or a River City character. But the River City, I think, is off the docket unless they do like River City Girls or something, which would bring Way Forward into it again. But I don't see Arc System Works probably getting a character over Koei Tecmo. That would be really bizarre. Okay, back to Nintendo. So with those out, I'm thinking about their big games. So we do have games on the horizon. So we have Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, and we do have Metroid Prime 4. We have the Famicom Detective Club games. We've got Splatoon 3. Mario Golf. I'm just trying to think of what's actually known. The DC Superhero Girls game's not going to get in Smash. If Marvel Ultimate Alliance didn't, DC sure isn't. Bayonetta 3, but again, I'm kind of counting that as a Sega character, so I'm not going to include it in my tally. I'm sure there's a new Mario platformer in the works, but I don't know what that entails exactly. Hi, bud. What you doing? Yeah, I knew you were going to come and tell me all about how it's dinner time for you in the middle of this recording. So why don't you come and say hi, because you haven't been in this video yet. Flavia's been stealing your limelight. Say hi. Say, oh, you did. Well, that's just cute. Out of all of that, I think that Breath of the Wild 2 and Splatoon have the most likelihood of getting that coveted Nintendo spot in terms of Switch representation. I don't think anything that hasn't been added into Smash as a character that has appeared on the Switch is going to at this point. Because I think most of those big games have been hit with spirit events that just knock them right out of contention. With Breath of the Wild 2, I'm feeling most strongly about Zelda from Breath of the Wild 2. I really don't want that as much as I love Zelda in that game, in the original game at least. And I really feel like she's going to be a major character in this new one. In my understanding of Japanese culture, cutting your hair is a sign of a new beginning, of moving into a new phase and letting go of the past. And I think that's pretty symbolic because Zelda has never had short hair. Never had short hair in the entire history of the series. The closest I think has been like Hyrule Warriors, the original one. So I feel that Zelda having shorter hair is going to be a sign that she's either going to be a support character or playable. And I'm hoping for the latter. I will accept the former. As long as she doesn't get captured. Splatoon 3 though. Splatoon 3 has a lot of potential. And I think that adding an Octoling would be a smart decision. Because A, you could add in a whole new stage with a whole bunch of Splatoon 2 and Octo expansion and maybe even a track or two from Splatoon 3 onto the stage. Simple. Pick a new stage from Splatoon 2 or if you really want to get wild, a Splatoon 3 stage. And then the Octolings have enough unique weapons that aren't being utilized by the Inkling that they would be fine. You could change them up, make them more bomb-oriented. You could change them up and have them be more brush-oriented. There's a lot of potential there, and the ink mechanic is already there. So it wouldn't be a ton of like having to do brand new stuff to make them work. Off the Hook would also be nice. Pearl and Marina are awesome, and doing something with them would also be great. Marina's one of my favorite women in all games. Pearl's up there too. So I'd be cool with that. Unfortunately, Pearl's big thing is the killer whale, and that's already the Inkling's final smash. So I don't think that will probably happen, unfortunately. The other thing is like wish list fulfillment from the past. And I don't know a ton about Wii U 3DS development in terms of what was axed, other than characters that didn't make it back in. But I do know with Brawl that there was a few characters that were planned that didn't make it in. Dixie Kong is probably the biggest one on that list that I think would have a chance. She was originally supposed to be paired with Diddy, Ayla of the Ice Climbers, but it didn't work out. I think with the Kong renaissance of King K. Rool coming into the game is a big help, because Donkey Kong's also lost the most stages out of all of the returning franchises. Both the Wii U stage and the Brawl stage were removed. So we only have the 2 Melee stages and the arcade Donkey Kong stage from Brawl. And there was no new stage added for Donkey Kong. So that gives me some feelings like that could happen. And then they could also just bring in a bunch of Donkey Kong country music without having to do a bunch of remixes, and it would probably go over well. And maybe even pull in David Wise to make him the 3rd Western remixer in the series. Although I'm sure the others would be happy to join in too. I don't think that the Chorus Kids from Rhythm Heaven have much of a chance anymore. I don't think that Plus and Minel from Pokemon or whatever that duo was supposed to be have a chance anymore. Rhythm Heaven hasn't seen a new entry since the Wii U 3DS, and there's nothing on the horizon for that. And the Pokemon has moved like 5 generations since Brawl, so that just I don't think is going to happen either. Geno, I think we lost to the Mii costume. I know that there was a potential of Geno being added, or Sakurai had expressed interest in adding him. But I think, like, in terms of characters that got cut in development, most of them have either made it in, or it's the ones I listed off. I don't think that there's too many in, like I said, for Wii U 3DS that are known that haven't been added in Ultimate. So that's what I think. That's where my thoughts are. The other thing that could happen, since we're basically in anything goes mode with speculation now, if I just abandon it has to be something that would fulfill like something that the development team has wanted to do, or Nintendo has wanted to do. It could be just like a real interesting retro throwback character, because we haven't really had one in either pass. Hi, bud. Piranha Plant was the curveball, but that was like a DLC incentive for buying the game early. But when you look at like Joker, heroes from Dragon Quest, Banjo-Kazooie, Terry Bogard, Byleth, Min Min, Steve and Alex, Sephiroth, Pyra and Mythra. None of those are weird. There's not a Rob here. There's not a Mr. Game & Watch here. There's not a Duck Hunt here. And honestly, Piranha Plant's that character, but it's still not really like the same history attached to Piranha Plant like there is with Rob and Mr. Game & Watch and Duck Hunt. So if we were to get like a retro character that we just haven't seen in forever, that could come up, I have two ideas. They're very, very interesting characters to me. One has had some precedence in being in a Smash game. The other one has not. First one is Mach Rider. Mach Rider, if I remember correctly, was briefly considered for inclusion in Melee. And if you look at the trophy for Mach Rider in Melee, it's really detailed. So it really does make me wonder if there was just a really big fan at HAL Labs at that time, or just generally speaking, they were considering Mach Rider as a fighter at some point. The neat thing about Mach Rider, though, is that they could make Mach Rider a woman, because of Versus Mach Rider, there is the I forget exactly what the screens are, but there's little breaks in between the levels, and as you go, Mach Rider's costume changes and becomes like a Barbarella outfitted woman with a knife. And that would be neat if they actually made Mach Rider woman. And the mechanic of Mach Rider's bike falling apart would be really interesting, because that could really give them some interesting moves. And there's, other than Wario, we don't really have a character that has a bike like that. So the movement could be really interesting, how they zip around. Because the only other character that really does that is like Bowser Jr. with the clown car. But I still think they could do some really interesting stuff with Mach Rider. The other character is Mike Jones from Star Tropics, and I say that because we still, to this day, have two Nintendo characters on this roster that have never been in a localized game for North America or Europe. That's Roy from Fire Emblem, and that's Lucas from Mother. Both of those characters have yet to see their original games be localized. And at the rate Mother 3 is going, I don't think that's going to happen. So if my memory serves me correct, Roy appeared in the Blazing Blade. And the one that was localized first for America and Europe, I think, was the Binding Blade. But Roy's game has not been localized. So Mike Jones from Star Tropics has never been in Japan. The Star Tropics games were not localized for that country. They were North American exclusives and only came out to Europe on the Virtual Console. So it would be interesting to see that side of Nintendo's NES history see some sort of light. And Mike Jones has a dynamic enough moveset in the two games he appeared in that I think he would be a really fascinating character. He'd be a bit like Link, but could do some different stuff. Those are the two I would think. I'm having a hard time thinking of like a dynamic enough like peripheral character. The way that Rob and Mr. Game & Watch and Duck Hunt are. Because the Super Scope's already in the game, unless we have like the Wii Fit pad come in, but I don't think that's going to happen. Labo Guy. At this point, I don't foresee that. But they could do something really interesting with a really, really deep pull. But that's what I think. That's where my Smash speculative thoughts are. We'll see what happens. I'm sure that around April or May, we'll probably get the next trailer. Maybe at E3. If we have an E3. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to support E3 anymore, to be honest with you. But that's a topic for another day. So, thank you so much for watching this incredibly long video about the Nintendo Direct and on Smash. I hope that hope you enjoyed. Next week, I think I do want to touch on that Square Enix question that I was talking about earlier. I think it would be interesting to get more into what they're not bringing over, what they're not reviving in terms of their retro catalog. So that'll probably be what we'll be talking about, among something else, I'm sure, that happened during the week. So, Until then, have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon.